Tampa Bay stole the show Tuesday, blasting 5 home runs and riding a complete game gem from Nick Martinez to an 8th straight win over Oakland, while power surges broke out across baseball from Baltimore to Washington. The Detroit Tigers held off a Cleveland power surge to win 6-4 at home over the Guardians. Cleveland got solo shots from both Chase DeLauter and Joe Adell, with DeLauter turning in the day's best line for the Guardians at 3 for 5 with an RBI multi-hit day that stood out even in a loss. Angel Martinez chipped in a hit as well, extending his hitting streak to 7 straight games for Cleveland. Angel now added a stolen base, but it wasn't enough to overcome Detroit's offense, which got hits from Javier Baez, Kevin McGonigal, Spencer Torkelson, Gleyber Torres, and Max Clark. Jacob Wegsbach picked up the win on a mound for the Tigers, tossing 2 scoreless innings, and Kenley Jansen slammed the door with a 1-inning save to seal it. Despite the loss, Cleveland's power department was very much alive, with DeLauter's multi-hit, multi-total base game a name fantasy managers should keep an eye on going forward. The Miami Marlins blanked the Pittsburgh Pirates 2-0 behind a dominant start from Yuri Perez, who fired 7 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts to pick up the win. Yuri Ruiz provided all the offense Miami would need, going deep for a home run and also swiping a bag in the same game a power-speed combo that punctuated the win. Griffin Canine, Javier Sonoja, Xavier Edwards, and Otto Lopez also picked up hits for the Marlins. Sonoja's hit was a notable one, extending his hitting streak to 7 straight games. Pittsburgh managed only scattered offense against Perez, with Jacob Gonzalez, Ronnie Simon, Esmeralyn Valdez, and Henry Davis picking up the Pirates' only knocks. Heriberto Hernandez, Jacob Marcy, Owen Casey, and Joe Mack were held hitless for Miami, while Spencer Horwitz, Brandon Lowe, Brian Reynolds, Jake Mangum, and Nick Gonzalez did the same for Pittsburgh in a pitcher's duel that stayed low-scoring from start to finish. Pete Fairbanks closed things out with a clean 1-inning save to lock up the shutout win for Miami. The Chicago Cubs outlasted the Washington Nationals in a slugfest, winning 8-6 in a game that saw 6 total home runs. Washington actually out-homered Chicago at home, getting blasts from C.J. Abrams, Dylan Cruz, and Jacob Young, while Brady House turned in the game's best individual line at 3 for 4, a multi-hit performance worth noting for fantasy purposes. But the Cubs matched them blow for blow with Alex Bregman, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Seiya Suzuki all going deep. Nico Horner added a stolen base, and Ryan Rollison picked up the win in relief while Jacob Webb closed it out with a 4-out save. Ian Happ and Carson Kelly also collected hits for Chicago. It was a wild, back-and-forth affair from start to finish. Despite the power outburst, Washington couldn't overcome the deficit built by Chicago's balanced attack, falling 8-6 in a game defined by the long ball on both sides. The New York Yankees took care of business at home, beating the Seattle Mariners 4-1. Seattle's lone run came via a solo home run from Randy Arizona, who also had a hit in the game. New York countered with a balanced attack, getting hits from Ryan McMahon, Austin Wells, Jazz Kishom Jr., Trent Grisham, George Lombard Jr., and Luis Garcia Jr. Kishom also swiped a bag to add a bit of speed to the Yankees' night. Heliot Ramos, Spencer Jones, and Ben Rice were held hitless for New York, while Cole Young, Weston Wilson, Taylor Ward, Cal Raleigh, and Colt Emerson did the same for Seattle. Tim Hill picked up the win out of the bullpen, and David Bednar slammed the door with a clean 1-inning save. Seattle got hits from Dominic Canzone and Brendan Donovan as well, but couldn't string together enough offense to threaten New York's lead, falling 4-1 in a game that never felt particularly close after the Yankees built their advantage early. The Toronto Blue Jays held on at home for a 5-3 win over the Boston Red Sox. Boston tried to claw back into it with home runs from Wilyer Abreu and Seth and Rafaela, and Abreu also chipped in a stolen base alongside Andrew Monasterio, who swiped one of his own. Jarren Duran, Nick Sogard, Adley Rutschman, and Masataka Yoshida all added hits for the Red Sox, but it wasn't enough to complete the comeback. Toronto got a balanced night at the plate from Andres Guinness, Nathan Lukes, George Springer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Miles Straw, and Alejandro Kirk. Boston's power was on full display early, but Toronto's balanced lineup and steady bullpen work down the stretch proved to be the difference in front of the home crowd. Chase Lee picked up the win in relief, and Spencer Miles closed things out with a 1-inning save to preserve the 2-run victory for the Blue Jays. The Atlanta Braves shut out the New York Mets 4-0 at home, backed by a strong start from Martinez, who worked 6 scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts to earn the win. Atlanta's offense was fueled by home runs from Matt Olson and Ozzie Albies, while Michael Harris Roman II also chipped in a hit. New York had trouble finding any offensive rhythm against Perez in Atlanta's bullpen, with only Carson Bench, Francisco Lindor, and Luis Robert Jr. managing hits for the Mets all night. Ronald Acuna Jr., Austin Riley, and Mike Yastrzemski were held off the board for Atlanta, while Bo Bichette, Francisco Alvarez, Marcus Semien, and Jorge Polanco couldn't get New York's offense on track against Atlanta's pitching. It was a clean, efficient win for the Braves, wrapped up in just over 2 hours, as Atlanta's pitching staff didn't allow a single Mets run to cross the plate the entire game. The Baltimore Orioles blasted their way to a 5-2 road win over the Minnesota Twins, powered by 3 home runs and 3 multi-hit performances. Gunnar Henderson led the way at 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs, Pete Alonso went 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs of his own, and Christian Encarnacion Strand chipped in a 3 for 4 night with an RBI and a stolen base, all 3 going deep in the same game. That trio's multi-hit, multi-RBI performances make them stand-up fantasy plays out of this one. Brandon Young picked up the win for Baltimore, allowing just 1 earned run over 6 innings with 4 strikeouts, and Andrew Kittredge closed it out with a 1-inning save. Minnesota got hits from Brooks Lee, Kalen Culpepper, Ryan Jeffers, Royce Lewis, and Luke Keeschall, but couldn't keep pace with Baltimore's power surge, falling 5-2 in a game defined by the long ball. The Cincinnati Reds edged the Chicago White Sox 5-4 on the road despite Chicago starter Sean Burke turning in a dominant outing, striking out 8 over 7 innings. Chicago actually out-homered Cincinnati at home with Edgar Quero, Brenton Doyle, and Miguel Vargas all going deep, but Eugenio Suarez answered with a home run of his own for the Reds. Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Stewart, Michael Toglia, Matt McLain, and Tyler Stephenson all added hits for Cincinnati's offense. Tristan Peters, Luis Angel Acuna, Carlson Montgomery, and Braden Montgomery were held hitless for the White Sox, while Dane Myers, Kebrian Hayes, J.J. Bleday, and Hector Rodriguez did the same for the Reds in a game that swung late. Brock Burke picked up the win in relief, and Emilio Pagan closed out the 1-run victory with a clean save. Despite Chicago's 3-homer night and Sean Burke's strong start, the White Sox came up just short in a back-and-forth affair that was decided in the late innings. Louis Cardinals blanked the Philadelphia Phillies 2-0 at home, with Everson Pereira's home run providing the difference-maker. George Soriano picked up the win in relief and Riley O'Brien closed it out with a 1-inning save to complete the shutout. Jordan Walker added a stolen base for the Cardinals, though his night snapped a notable streak. His 9-game hitting streak came to an end. Alec Burleson, Pedro Pages, and Masson Wynn also picked up hits for St. Louis. JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Justin Crawford, and Luis Cerise were kept off the board for Philadelphia, while Jose Furman, J.J. Weatherholt, Blaze Jordan, and Ivan Herrera were held hitless for St. Louis, underscoring just how tight the pitching matchup was on both sides. Philadelphia couldn't solve the Cardinals' pitching, managing hits from Brandon Marsh, Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, Kyle Schwarber, and Trea Turner, with Stott and Derek Hill each stealing a base, but the Phillies were shut out in a tightly pitched, low-scoring game that stayed close throughout. The Los Angeles Angels edged the Texas Rangers 3-2 at home in a close one. Jock Pederson's solo home run accounted for Texas's offense alongside a hit, but it wasn't enough to overcome the Angels. Los Angeles got production from Zach Neto, who also stole a base, along with Vaughn Grissom, Nolan Schanuel, and Wade Meckler. Mike Trout didn't record a hit, but did swipe a bag of his own. Oswald Peraza, Jose Siri, Moises Ballesteros, and Tyler Heineman were held hitless for the Angels, while Corey Seager, Nicky Lopez, Justin Foscue, and Elias Diaz couldn't find their footing at the plate for Texas in the tight, low-scoring affair. Jose Furman picked up the win out of the bullpen, and Sammy Natara Jr. closed it out with a 1-inning save to lock up the narrow victory. Texas got hits from Austin Wynns, Ezequiel Duran, Brandon Nimmo, and Jared Kelenic, but couldn't complete a rally against the Angels' bullpen in a game decided by a single run. The Colorado Rockies stole a 3-2 road win over the Arizona Diamondbacks despite Arizona getting home runs from Kettle Marte and Corbin Carroll. Kyle Carros answered for Colorado with a home run of his own, and Tomoyuki Sugano picked up the win, allowing 2 earned runs over 6 innings with 5 strikeouts. Jordan Romano closed it out with a 1-inning save. The game's standout performance belonged to Tintawa, who swiped 2 bags for Arizona in the loss at 2-steal night that stands out for fantasy purposes even in a losing effort. Jorge Barroza added another stolen base for the Diamondbacks, and Cole Carrick stole 1 for Colorado. The win also came with a small footnote for the Rockies, as their own Jake McCarthy saw his 9-game hitting streak come to an end even as the team picked up the win, with Hunter Goodman, Jordan Beck and Ezequiel Tavar all chipping in hits to help seal it. The Tampa Bay Rays throttled the Athletics 12-4 on the road, extending their winning streak to 8 straight games behind an offensive explosion. Taylor Walls led the barrage with 2 home runs, while Carson Williams, Yanny Diaz, Victor Mesa Jr. and Junior Caminero each added a homer of their own 5 total long balls for Tampa Bay in the win. Nick Martinez was outstanding on the mound, going the distance with a complete game effort over 9 innings, allowing 4 earned runs while striking out 5 to pick up the win. It capped a dominant night for the Rays, who have now won 8 in a row and show no signs of slowing down. The only blemish on Tampa Bay's night was Jonathan Aranda, whose 8-game hitting streak came to an end despite the team's romp. The Athletics countered with a solo shot from Lawrence Butler and hits up and down the lineup from Donovan Walton, Dak Geloff, Jeff McNeil, Carlos Cortes, Alika Williams, Henry Bolt and Jacob Wilson, but nothing close to enough to keep pace with Tampa Bay's power surge. Wall's 2-homer game stands out as one of the best fantasy performances of the day. The San Diego Padres crushed the Milwaukee Brewers 11-2 at home, powered by home runs from Luis Rengifo, Luis Campusano and Fernando Tatis Jr. Campusano was the offensive standout, going 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs, while Manny Machado also went 3 for 4 without driving in a run. Walker Buehler earned the win on the mound, allowing just 1 earned run over 6 innings with 5 strikeouts. San Diego's lineup was relentless, with Jackson Merrill, Austin Hayes, Ty France, Xander Bogaerts, and Jake Cronenworth all picking up hits to pile on. Sung-Min Song, Gavin Sheets, and Jace Bowen were held hitless for San Diego, while Jackson Chourio, Christian Yelich, Jake Bowers, William Contreras, Gary Sanchez, and Jillian B couldn't get anything going against San Diego's pitching for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's offense never got going against Buehler and the Padres' pitching staff, with Andrew Vaughn, Brandon Lockridge, Garrett Mitchell, David Hamilton, Bryce Turang and Luis Lara managing the only hits for the Brewers in a lopsided loss. The San Francisco Giants beat the Houston Astros 4-1 at home behind a strong start from Carson Weissenhunt, who worked 5.2 innings allowing just 1 earned run to pick up the win. Bryce Eldridge provided the power with a solo home run, and Drew Cavanaugh and Willie Adams each added a stolen base to go along with their hits. Drew Gilbert and Osley Vispasev also chipped in for the Giants. Victor Bercotto, Yoonhoo Lee and Rafael Devers were held off the base paths for San Francisco, while Nick Allen, Jeremy Pena, Christian Walker, Yainer Diaz, Yordan Alvarez and Nelson Velasquez were kept quiet by the Giants' pitching staff for Houston. JT Brubaker closed it out with a 1-inning save to secure the win. Houston's offense was held mostly in check, with Isaac Paredes, Cam Smith, Dalton Varsho and LaMonte Wade Jr. managing the Astros' only hits in a game where San Francisco's pitching staff controlled the pace throughout the night. The Los Angeles Dodgers held off the Kansas City Royals 5-4 at home behind a dominant outing from Blake Snell, who struck out 10 over 6 innings. Mookie Betts provided the offensive spark, going 3 for 4 with a home run and 2 RBIs to power the Dodgers' attack. Max Muncy, Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages, and Alex Call all added hits as well. Ben Rortvedt, Kyle Tucker, and Freddie Freeman were held hitless for Los Angeles, while Carter Jensen, Isaac Collins, Nick Lofton, John Rave, Michael Massey, and Kyle Isbell couldn't get on base for Kansas City in a game that came down to the final innings. Seth Halvorsen picked up the win in relief to help seal the 1-run victory. Kansas City pushed back with hits from Tyler Talbert, Salvador Perez, Jack Caglianon, and Bobby Witt Jr. with Talbert and Caglianon each stealing a base. But the Royals came up just short in a back-and forth game that went down to the wire. Tampa Bay's win streak swelled to 8 straight after Tuesday's blowout, showing no signs of stopping. On a hitting side, Cleveland's Angel Martinez pushed his streak to 7 straight games with a hit, matched by Miami's Javier Sonoja at 7 of his own. Not every streak survived the night, though Jordan Walker's 9-game hitting streak instant. Louis came to an end. Fantasy managers had plenty to like out of Tuesday's slate. Taylor Walls put together a two-homer game for Tampa Bay, the day's most impressive power line, while Tintawa swiped two bags for Arizona in a losing effort. A steal source worth streaming. Baltimore's Gunnar Henderson and Pete Alonso both delivered multi-hit, multi-RBI nights in the same win, and Cleveland's Chase DeLauder added a 3-for-5, 1 RBI game that's hard to ignore. Plenty of streaming and lineup options to consider from this group. That's a wrap on today's action across the majors. Hit subscribe so you never miss a recap.